Hello, good evening. Who is with me today? It's exciting to be with you once again tonight. Let me know who is in the room with me. You're welcome. It's going to be an interesting section tonight. So just go to the chat. Let's know where you are joining from. Let's know where you're joining from, the state, the institution. I just like to know. All right, Joseph Ashidi. Oh, good to see you, sir. Chima Lambertson, good to see you. All the way from Imo State. Thank you for joining. Please do me the favor of sharing this link. Let's get more people to join us tonight. It's going to be a fantastic section. Just grab your seats and let's get started tonight. I cannot wait to share some experiences with you tonight. I cannot wait to share some concepts and insights that will help you in your research commercialization journey. Who is supposed to be here tonight should be lecturers, researchers at all levels. I expect you to be here. I also expect leaders in the universities and the polytechnics. By leaders, I mean the principal officers that man the entire intellectual property value chain in the universities, right? Talking about the IBTTO, the Director of Research, even the DVCs that are in charge of research and innovation in the institutions. This section will be quite relevant to them. And of course, talk about the students, PhD students particularly, master students. This is also a very good section for them because they're going to start learning now how they can go through the various steps towards commercializing their research. Thank you, Professor Koya, for being here. I'm so excited to see you, sir. So humbled actually to see you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. All right, so I'm not going to waste any time again because I see some big people are here. I'm not going to want to take their time. Tonight, we are discussing research commercialization roadmap. Research commercialization roadmap. So how do you go step by step towards commercializing your research? As we have this discourse, please, I'd like you to begin to imagine your research journey. Where are you today? Where are you today in the journey, and where are you to go next? What's the next journey? That is why we're going to be discussing step by step. Earlier in the series, I talked about technology readiness level. I talked about commercial readiness level and market readiness level. I talked about management readiness level. These are different dimensions of assessment and evaluation of your technologies. But what is interesting about tonight's section is that I'm going to give you just one roadmap, being that I'm condensing all of those dimensions to one roadmap that you just, simply follow and understand, and then apply it and adapt it to your own research. That's what we're going to be discussing this section. I'll be giving you 15 steps that will be necessary for you to gradually commercialize your research, meaning move your research concepts from the laboratory, from the workshop, from the classroom, from your office as a researcher to the marketplace. What are those steps you need to take? as we have this conversation tonight, I'd like you to also do me the favor of sharing the link. Let more people join us so that it's going to be a robust conversation and an engaging one. And also feel free to drop your questions, anything at all that is confusing, that you don't understand, or even beyond what we're discussing tonight. Just go ahead and drop it. All right, good. So let us start. Research commercialization roadmap. It's important to note that the road towards commercializing your research is not a straight line. It's not a straight line, it is a spiral. It's a spiral journey. It's not a straight line. Nobody should tell you that lie. Innovation is not a straight line. Most times you don't start and then you see the very end, right? You see just the very end. No, that's not the way it is. Innovation is a spiral journey. Commercializing your research, likewise, is a spiral journey, meaning that it is iterative. It's iterative and it is dynamic journey, right? So you're going to see some back and forth. But the interesting thing is that as you go in that spiral journey, your worldview expands. You get to know more about the problem you're solving or about the concept you're researching, and then you are able to be better positioned to then build an innovation out of that invention, out of that technological advancement, out of that research concept, right? So it is a journey that expands your worldview. It's a journey that as you're taking it, you're learning. Your knowledge expands, your experiences expands, and your stamina towards pushing this to the market gets stronger. That is the journey of innovation. Please, it's not a straight line. People get frustrated when they think everything is going to work out so smoothly. They're going to count A, then they count B, then they count C, then they count D. This is not predictable. The journey of innovation is not predictable. However, it is dynamic, meaning as you take the journey, you're going to get better equipped to take the next journey, right? To take the next step along the way. That is something that we must establish. So I said it's a spiral journey, meaning that it's a journey in loops. Okay, you're going to have different loops you'll be taking, So it's a spiral journey. It's in loops. So one loop after the other. But you know the interesting thing: the more the loops you take, the higher the loops the loop you take, the wider your worldview, the wider the experience and the knowledge you gather about the journey ahead, the more you're positioned about what the right decision to take is in the journey. I hope this is very clear because we need to just say this straight as we move forward. Good. Now, what is the first step? What is the first step? The first step is what I call the word starting point. The starting point. You remember, just think about a spiral, a spiral staircase, right? So there is a starting point. That starting point, we call it the initial exploration. In your research commercialization journey, this is the initial exploration you're going to start taking, you're going to start making towards commercializing your research, towards taking your research to a place of value for the society. So we call it what? Initial exploration stage. Now, as you can imagine, this happens at the center of what? The spiral journey of the spiral, the center of the spiral. That's where we are talking about now. You're still at the ground level, at the center, then you now start taking those loop-like journey. All right, good. So I hope the picture I'm creating makes sense and you understand it. Having said that, the first thing you do is what? Initial exploration. You want to begin to understand and assess the core of your technology. And you're now beginning to understand the basic potentials of your technology, right? This is important. You're understanding the scientific merit of your technology. You begin to appreciate the concept that your research is built upon. So this is the first stage. usually find ourselves in this first stage, and most people don't go beyond this first stage. We call it the initial exploration. Now you're beginning to understand even the strength of your research, the merits of your research. Your perspective is you're beginning to ask the right questions about the research. Sometimes this is at the point where you have now some outputs from your research, right? There are some results out of this research. You've explored the problem and all of that. You have come up with a result, and then you're asking yourself, can this result actually be commercialized? That's the point. You're looking at, okay, what are the potentials? What are the potentials of this research, right? Now, this is where you are at the point. For a PhD student, this is probably at the time that you're maybe in your fourth year, in your third year in your research, you already have some results now, and you're asking, what's the next step? How can we move this thing to the market? For a researcher, you have some wonderful results you're excited about, but this is initial exploration. You're asking, what can I do with this? What can I do with this? If you're here and you're listening to me talking about this stage, it is that stage where I usually talk about to be the non-disclosure stage. The non-disclosure stage. At this point, you've not even disclosed to your institution that you have an intellectual property, right? So that is that first initial stage where you're still a bit confused. Should I go further with this or not? That is where we are. Then the second step. This second step, we call it assessment and evaluation stage. Assessment and evaluation. But interestingly, it is the first loop. It is the first loop. Remember, the first stage is what at the starting point. You're still at the ground level. Now, the second stage is what the first loop. The first loop. You've gone to the first loop now. We call it assessment and evaluation. Assessment and evaluation. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, you begin to now assess the commercial potential of your research concept. You're beginning to assess the commercial potential. You're beginning to assess the technological potential. Does this make sense, technologically speaking? Do I have a real technology at this stage, right? You begin to ask those questions. Now, this is what, when you are assessing and evaluating the potential of your technology, that is the first loop. First loop. At this stage, you have probably disclosed to your institution, and they're doing what we call evaluation. And what the IPTTO is doing at this stage with your research is they are doing, first of all, the preliminary evaluation, then they're doing the technological evaluation, then they're doing the commercial evaluation. These three stages are the things that happen at this. So if you're involving your institution, this is the time. Right, this is what is happening at this stage. That's the first loop. But the second stage in the process, right? Please pay attention. The second stage is assessment and evaluation, but it's also the first loop in that spiral journey. I told you I'm going to give you 15 steps. But of these 15 steps, there are 14 loops. The first stage, which is the starting bit, is not a loop. It's just at the start, is the ground level, is the starting point, right? Good. So now this is what the first loop, assessment and evaluation. Yes. So when we go beyond assessment and evaluation, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about intellectual property protection. Intellectual property protection. We have assessed, we have evaluated, we should go on. There is a lot of reasons for us to go on, because this makes scientific sense, this makes technological sense, this also makes commercial sense. So the next step, which is the third step, and the second loop, is intellectual property protection. Intellectual property protection. Ladies and gentlemen, if you belong to a university, a polytechnic, there is a unit in the university that should be responsible for this. And this is called the Intellectual Property Technology Transfer Office, IPTTO. I expect that your institution has this unit. If, however, your institution doesn't have this unit, as a matter of urgency, talk to your senior management and let them write to NOTAP, National Office on Technology Acquisition and promotion. Yes. So it's an agency under the presidency, right? So write to them, let them come and establish this unit in your institution. Very important. In fact, I argue that this is the most important unit in the entire university, the IPTTO. Very important, because they're the ones that should really bring money into the university, right? Apart from school fees and tuition and stuff like that. This is the unit that every university, every institution should pay attention to. Let's say you're not part of any institution. Does that mean you're not going to protect your intellectual property? That is not what it means. What it means is that you're going to go out there and you find a way to do it. So there is what we call the patent registry under the Federal Ministry of Investments, Industry, and Trades, right? Yeah, so this is where the patent registry sits, the ministry. So you just ask and go there and then have your intellectual property protected. Have your intellectual property protected as a patent. So you can also do industrial designs with them. You can also do there's also the trademark, and there's also the copyright. So you just find out where these guys are and go ahead and do your protection. But when you don't know how to start, you can always reach out to me, right? Just reach out to me and then I can help you make the necessary connections. But if you have an intellectual property, the next thing, what you must do is to protect it. That's what you must do. All right. So we now move to the next stage. You have protected your intellectual property. What then should you do? So there is what we call market research and validation. You have your intellectual property now protected. The next thing you should do, the fourth stage, is what? Market research and validation. Market research and validation. Now, you are supposed to begin to do what? Market research. Understand the real opportunities around this technology. Understand the actual market segment you want to focus on. Understand the positioning of your technology in this market. That is very important. Now begin to validate. Go out there, do some surveys, do deep interviews, understand the urgent reason why anybody would want to take and absorb your product, the product that will emerge from your technology. Ladies and gentlemen, remember what I'm talking to you about. Your intellectual property is now protected. Is now protected before you go out there to talk about it. All right? Remember the steps. Remember the steps. At this stage, it is protected. You have filed for patent. Now it is time for you to go out there and start to tell people about some technology you have and how that it can help them solve their needs and address their pain points. This is a very important step. But let me tell you something. It's still a spiral journey, and this is the third loop in the journey. And as you take this loop, remember, it's expanding. Your knowledge base is expanding. Your worldview is expanding. You're getting to know more about your technology and the commercial and commercialization potentials of this, right? So that is important to note. But at this market research and validation, the thing is that you're refining your strategy to address the right customer segment. You're doing your research, you understand, you're now in the marketplace, you're talking to the right people. It's very important. It's very important. And you actually now defining who exactly your technology is meant for. What I call the user persona. Who is that one person out there that you want to serve with your technology? Very important. Once you have understood this, we now go to the fifth step. The fifth step is what? Business planning. Business planning. That is the fifth step, and that is the fourth loop. The fifth step, and that is the fourth loop. You now begin to see. Once you have validated the market, you now have a business. And this is where business planning comes in. That's where business planning comes in. You now have a business. You're going to now ask yourself, what will be my revenue model? what will be the funding requirements, what will be my financial projections. How can I build a business? How can I build a business? How will I market this eventually? How can I build a team and all of that? These are the questions you're beginning to ask at this stage. Business planning. Remember, we have validated the market. We know that there is so and so market that we're going to position. There is so and so geography we're going to be focusing. Market has been identified and validated. So you now go to that next step, which is what business planning. So at this point, it is fifth step, but the fourth loop. Fifth step, but the fourth loop in the what spiral. In the spiral, we call it what business planning. I hope I'm clear on what business planning is. At this stage, you're talking about what are my revenue streams, what is my revenue model, how will I do real business, financial projections, what are the funding requirements, how can I build a business? You're beginning to ask yourself those questions, right? Now, if you're part of an institution, it gets interesting because at this stage, you're already thinking about spin out. You're already thinking about spin out. You're already thinking, okay, how am I going to tag my school along as we go further, build a business out of this? You're now already thinking who would be the people that will run this business, because remember, as a lecturer, you have a job with a university. You're not expected to own another business. It's important we say this, but I think I'm going to have another section entirely when I'm going to talk about it. You're not expected to own another business outside of agriculture and all of those stuff. But there is a caveat there. There's a caveat there. Let me just quickly say this. You can own a business, but you're not expected to run it. You can own a business, but you're not expected to run it. If you don't own a business, so why are we then talking about research commercialization? So what this means is that you can actually be, by way of equity ownership, you can own the business, but nobody expects you to run it. If you're running it, that means you're taking another job outside of what original job you had, right? So there are ways around this, but the important thing is that you need to have a commercial team. Right? So if you need more information on this, then check out the earlier series where we talked about assessment and evaluation of your technology as a researcher. Yeah, it's one of the live sections we had some days back. So, ladies and gentlemen, here I'm talking about a situation where now you're doing your business planning. Either as a researcher within an institution or as a researcher outside of the institution. You're already thinking about, how do I build a business? What are the funding requirements? How do I raise funding and all of that? But that now takes us to the next step, which is what? Funding and resources. That's the sixth step and the fifth loop. Funding. Securing funding and the necessary resources you need for your research commercialization is very important. Without funding, I don't know how you're going to commercialize your research. So you need to secure what? Funding. You need to secure funding. You need to secure resources and capabilities for you to move on further than where you are today. Because look, without funding, you cannot even further develop your product. You can't further develop your product. So funding becomes very, very important. Now, you have planned your business, you've made financial projections. The next step is what? Funding. Go there and raise money. It's beyond the scope of the lecture tonight to now start discussing funding sources. But the next thing you want to do after you have planned your business steps and all of that is to go out there and raise money. Business planning. I must also quickly say that at the stage of business planning is probably where you want to think about formalization of your business, meaning registering with CAC and all that, right? But right after that, you need to go out there and raise money. There are different places and steps towards raising money. One good one is grants, but that's the discussion for another day, right? So go and raise money. So that takes us to the next step, which is product development. Product development, and that is number 7, but the 6th loop, right? Number 7, but the 6th loop in the spiral journey, that is product development. So in the product development here, they're talking about developing your prototypes. You're talking about developing your prototype, developing your minimum viable products. That is it. That's where you are now. Developing from your minimum, from your low fidelity prototype to your high fidelity prototype to your minimum viable product. This is it. So product development is important, and that is the 7th step along the process and the 6th loop. I hope you're all taking notes, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Now, when you have done that, when you have created your minimum viable product, you have raised some money. You remember the money was necessary for what? The product development. That's why I put it first before product development. If you have done your product development, the next thing you want to do is regulatory compliance. You want to make sure you register with the necessary agencies, regulatory agencies. This is where you can actually go ahead and formalize your business with a CAC. If you didn't do it at the business planning, you must now do it at this point. Why I advise sometimes for you to do it at the business planning stage is because if you are going to get any money from any form of investor, then you need to have formalized your business. But let's say you just worked on grants at that stage, and you dealt with family and friends at that stage to raise money. At this stage now of regulatory compliance, that is stage 8 and 7th loop, you are expected to dot all I's and cross all T's with respect to the regulations. Meaning that one expects you, if you need a NAFDAC registration, you must go to NAFDAC at this point. If you need SON registration, you need to go to SON at this point. All of that you need to do. It's at this stage that you have to do it. Everything that has to do with regulatory compliance. When you're done with regulatory compliance, the next thing is to run your testing and validation. And this is the 8th loop, and that is the 9th step. Testing. Much of what you have done so far are a bunch of hypotheses which must be tested, and I call it assumption testing. Yes, you're going to have to run some tests to better understand what you're doing, right? You're going to validate some of the assumptions you have made with respect to your products that you have developed, with respect to the businesses, your customer segment, all of the projections you have made. You have to validate them some way, somehow, and this is where you do them. At this stage now, remember also the regulatory compliance whole stuff you went through gives you even a more credible stance to now go out there to validate and to test your assumptions. Very important. But the interesting thing is that as you do this, your knowledge, your experience, your expertise with respect to this technology expands wider. And that is that whole spiral journey we're talking about. And at this stage, we are talking about what? The 8th loop, but the 9th stage. So once you have tested and you have validated any assumptions you're not able to prove, what do? You go back, you adjust what you need to adjust. This thing is the lean methodology here, right? You adjust what you need to adjust and all that with the data you have generated. Then you continue on the journey. Right? So now the next stage is what? The 10th stage, where you talk about what? Your market entry strategies. And this is your 9th loop, market entry strategies. How would you enter the market? Remember, until now, I've not discussed you already launching. I didn't discuss that yet. I've been talking about how that you're going to plan your business, how you're going to raise funding, how you're going to do product development, how you're going to do regulatory compliance. Now, I'm talking about what? And then testing. Then I'm talking about market entry strategies. The whole duty of a researcher who wants to create a spin out or who wants to commercialize their research is what? To get to the market. To get to the market. So if you want to get to the market, you must develop, you must design market entry strategies. Very important. How will you get into the market? How will you get to the market? This is something that you must understand. There are different ways to get to the market, right? Through partnerships, there are all those ways you can get to the market, right? You can also just launch. This is where you talk about what channels you're going to use. Are you going to use direct channels or indirect channels? What is your market entry strategy? What is your market entry strategy? This is very important because it determines how far you're going to go with your spin out efforts. What happens is that you're going to be frustrated and you probably end the journey at that stage. Now, it's not a good thing, right? So that's why you must plan your market entry strategy. Now, when you have planned your market entry strategy, what next do you do? There is something called commercialization partnerships. Commercialization partnership. That's the next level you want to go to, and that is the 11th step and the 10th loop. Commercialization partnerships. So here you're going to start exploring partnerships with industry players, with gatekeepers in the industry and the sector you were going into. Commercialization will bring you new insights and opportunities for growth. They're going to bring you new insights and opportunities for growth. Gone are the days when anybody does business alone. Yes, gone are the days when anybody does business alone. Not to talk of commercializing a whole research, a whole technology, brand new innovation. No, you cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone. So there's something called commercialization partnerships, key partnerships. You must look out for them. As a matter of fact, there is no way on earth you commercialize your technology where I was talking about commercialization partnerships. Commercialization partnerships is very important. Gone are the days when you do business alone. No, 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 no. You cannot do it even with research commercialization. No, you cannot do it. So that is why you must be careful. You must be careful in planning who your partners are going to be, your commercialization partners are going to be, and you reach out to them. You reach out to them and you strike the right partnerships. Very important. Very important. Commercialization partnerships. Then once you're done with that, we're talking now about what? Sales and marketing. That is the 12th stage and that is the 11th loop, right? Sales and marketing. Sales are different from marketing, right? So you want to be able to get yourselves right. You need to get yourselves right. If you don't, and then marketing, you also need to get it right. If you fail in your marketing and in your sales, then you're not going to ever commercialize. You're not going to ever commercialize. So it's important that you pay attention to this, your sales and marketing strategy. You can outsource your marketing, you can outsource your sales. But the important thing is that make sure that you have a top-notch sales and marketing strategy that will help you attract customers and drive revenue. Okay, that's the only way you can attract customers and drive revenue. Let me even quickly say that I had this a video section, a live section last week. I think so last week when I talked about market entry strategies. Please go and watch that because I just remembered that now because the 10th stage I talked about market entry strategies. I already have done a whole section on it. So you want to go out there check my videos and watch the market entry strategies for researchers, which I already made a video um, on that, right? So now we're discussing marketing and sales. Marketing and sales. You must really get this correct because you want to be able to attract customers to your business, to the business you have created. Once you have done that, you now go to the next one, which is what? Scaling and growth. Remember, at this stage, you have launch stage, you're doing your sales and marketing, customers are coming now gradually, but that is not where you're going to end it. This is very important to understand. And it's important to tell lecturers this too, because I have seen that at this stage, people are not, that enthusiasm, that first enthusiasm they had is now, going down. But I want to tell you that you are not even supposed to be in the commercial team, even at this point. Already, some other people should already be running this business for you at this stage, and you are expected to be at the board of directors. On the board, that's where you're supposed to do. Not necessarily board of our directors, but board of advisors. You're supposed to be there now, advising and putting in your expertise and your experience to support the growth of your technology. But I'm talking about the 13th stage. At the 13th stage, it is scaling. It is scaling. You want to be able to scale this to get to more markets, to get to adjacent markets, for you to reach out to more people. Now, more geographies, right? Very important. Scale and growth. So the idea here is for you to what? Expand your market. The idea here is for you to what? Get to more persons. If you need to do product development, you do product development. If you need to do market development, you do market development. But what? Find yourself growing. Find yourself growing. Find yourself growing. Right? Very important. You don't sit where you are comfortable. No, you think about strategies to now grow. After you have done this, we get to the 14th step. The 14th step is monitoring and adaptation. Monitoring and adaptation. This is what continual spiraling. Continual spiraling. There's a reason why we don't talk about this being that's the 12th loop now, or the 13th loop rather. This is the 14th stage that is supposed to be the 13th loop. But the interesting thing about this stage is that it is continual, right? You always learn as an innovator. You are always learning. You're always learning. You're always learning. So you're going to have to now start monitoring and adapting your strategies. Monitoring and adapting your strategies. And it can take you, as you're doing that, you're going to find out that probably you're going to need to go back to sales and marketing, right? And adapt and learn and adapt. You're going to now go back to maybe fundraising and raise more money. You're going to, so you find yourself even going back to what to the other earlier stages we talked about. That's why it is a continual spiraling. At this stage, you are now, you keep going back and forth on that spiral, You're adapting, for all those loops you have already passed. You're adapting and you're learning and you're adapting and you're learning and you're adapting. Very important. They're very important. But as this continues to happen, as you continue to monitor and adapt, as you continue to monitor and adapt, as you continue to monitor and adapt, you now go to the last stage. And that is, to me, the most interesting stage. It is called the exit strategy. The exit strategy, and we call it the final loop. The final loop, your exit strategy. As a researcher, um, unless you want to build a generational business, build a big company, it's important for you to have an exit strategy, because you're so blessed that every other year you're going to have different research concepts that also need commercialization. So why should you bother yourself, give yourself headache, dwelling on one technology that you already commercialized? Exit the business. Exit the business. Yes, exit it. There are different strategies for exiting. Number one, um, is that you can actually sell the company. Yeah, you had me right. You can actually sell the company. Um, you can actually sell the company. That's one of the ways you can exit the company. You can sell it. Now, um, the other way is by merger and acquisition. You can merge with another person. Someone has another technology that probably needs yours. You can merge. You can merge with them. Simple. You can merge with them, and now have them run the business. Right. You just merge with them. Simple, and then that would be a bigger technology, a bigger company. Right. You can merge with them. So merging is one way exit strategy. Another exit strategy is if you have grown well enough, you can actually um, do what we call IPO, right? Initial public offering. Now, this is usually a bit far fetched, but if you've grown your company to that extent, why not go public? Do an IPO, right? Do an IPO, initial public offering. Just go ahead and do it. That is the third stage to exit, the third exit strategy. But the other exit strategy is, let me just, so this one is licensing. Licensing. You can license that technology to another company, altogether. You can license that technology. And then when you license that technology, you're not actually, the business, the business, ends, then that technology, you can license it to another company to keep running. So this is different from merging with a company, right? A merger is two companies coming together, right? Just like Access Bank and Diamond Bank came together to become Access Bank, right? Yes. So licensing is different, where someone takes your technology and they keep improving their own business, right? Good. So I talked about also selling the business completely, sell the business completely, right? So there are all of those you can have as an exit strategy. So just determine the one that works for you, works for your technology, right? And use that. But there should be such a time that you want to now say, you know what? No, I'm done working on this technology. Let me go face another technology. This is quite common in the West. I mean, in the Western countries, right? In the Europe, in the US, even in Israel, they do a lot about on this actually, exiting companies. Right. So you need to have an exit strategy, and this is the 15th stage and the 14th loop, or what you call the final loop. At this stage, you are at the end of the spiral. Of the spiral, you're at the end of it. Now, you're at the end of it. Yes. Okay. Excellent. So this will be the steps that you need to take in order to commercialize your research. In order to commercialize your research, these are the steps you need to take, spiral after spiral. Remember how we started by saying that this journey of research commercialization is not a straight line, it goes in spiral, right? So as you continuously move around the spiral, your journey expands and is refined. Okay, and we say that it's iterable. It's a dynamic journey. It's a dynamic journey. So the spiral means your worldview expands. You know more as you continue on that journey. And we say there are 15 steps. I'm going to quickly run through the 15 steps again without explaining now, right? So the first one is what initial exploration. Initial exploration. You want to understand the technology, what it's about, and that's the starting point. After that stage, you do your assessment and evaluation. And this is the first step. After that, you go ahead and do your intellectual property protection, and this is your second loop. After that, you do your market research and validation, and this is your third loop. Market research and validation, this is your third loop. After that, you do your business planning, and that is your fourth loop. You need to plan your business, because now you're going to make money, you're going to make customers, You need to plan it exactly how you want to approach all that, right? Now, that is the fourth loop. After that, you talk about funding. You need to raise money. You need to raise funds. So you need to raise funds, and that is the fifth loop. After the fifth loop, by the way, it's not just funding. It's also about what funding and other resources you may need. This is where you also think about the team you're going to build, the expertise and the capabilities and competencies that you require to drive this further. After that, you then do product development, and we're talking about the sixth loop, product development. Product development. This is where you now go ahead to what build your minimum viable product. After that, we talk about the regulatory compliance, and that is the seventh loop, regulatory compliance. After regulatory compliance, talking about what testing and validation. Testing and validation. You want to test all those assumptions you have, you know, uh, um, come up with along the journey so far. It's a bunch of assumptions, bunch of hypotheses. You want to prove that these things are validated for you to before you move on, right? Testing and validation, and that is the eighth loop. Then you go to the ninth loop, which is market entry strategy. Market entry strategy. Market entry strategy. You want to now decide what is this market entry strategy I'm going to adopt for me to be able to survive in the marketplace. From there, you now go into what commercialization partnerships. Business is not done alone as a single person. No way. It's not. It's not. You must begin to understand who would be my commercial partners, who will be my key partners. Very important for you to note that, right? After that, you now will talk about your sales and marketing. Now you have the commercial partnerships. Then what is your sales and marketing? That is what your 11th loop. Your 11th loop. Because the product will stay with you if you don't market it. If you don't market it, it's going to stay with you. After marketing and sales, the next thing is what? Scaling and growth. You want to scale your product, you want to scale your business and grow it as well. Here we're talking about product development, we're talking about market development, very important. After that, you're not talking about what? Monitoring and adaptation. Monitoring and adaptation. Monitoring and adaptation. This is a continual what process, a continual process, because your duty, your whole duty is to learn, is to learn, is to learn, is to learn. You go through all of those steps again. You're learning, you're adapting where it needs to be adapted. You're flexible, right? Innovation is about learning. Innovation is about learning. That's the truth. So you're learning, you're adapting. Very important. Then that takes us to the final loop, which is what? Exit strategy. How will you quit this business? This business is not for to last forever, through you, right? So you get more people, you get people that have more capacity to handle this business. There are people that have better capacity to manage this business. So why not just get them to them take it further from this point, further from this point. Wow, it's been a journey, right? So let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be so happy to take the questions. But as I expect those questions, I'm going to quickly see. Um, I put out a form a couple of days ago and said, if you have any questions, drop them in a form and I will address them. And I'm very serious that I'm going to reach out to these people privately to answer the questions they have dropped. But